Have you ever wondered what your hands, heart, and intuition might reveal about your life? Welcome to Live Soul Readings, Hands, Hearts, and Higher Guidance with Cynthia Clark and Megan Brown. Each week, we explore meaningful themes, answer heartfelt questions, and offer live soul readings, intuitive messages, and higher guidance to bring greater clarity to your relationships, purpose, healing, and next steps. Want a chance to be featured live? Submit your hand photos and questions in advance. And join us every Saturday at 10 a.m. Arizona time. Because sometimes the guidance you've been seeking has been waiting for you all along.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited. Today, we are going to talk about one of my favorite and probably Megan's as well, favorite topics.
Yes.
And purpose, soul purpose.
Yes.
I hope you're excited to hear a little bit more about this. And it's definitely something that I've been contemplating for a very long time, probably my whole life. So if we're to be honest about it, but anyway, we've got a great show for you today. And for those of you, by the way, who are new to our show, we do live soul readings on the show. So you can actually submit your hands, you can ask questions, and Megan and I will answer them. So, but we're going to talk about purpose today. So first off, and I just compiled some questions that you guys submitted, and I thought this would be really fun just to go through the most popular ones, right? So the first one is really, how do I know if I'm living my soul purpose? So let's go ahead and have Megan start talking about that.
Okay. Thank you. So living the soul purpose to me is about showing up as yourself. And when you are, okay, so I'm going to put it like this. If you have a job that you're working and you have this background idea of what it is that you're really passionate about and you really want to be doing, make what it is that you're passionate about happen. Even it doesn't have to be, it could be painting, okay? It could be drawing. It could be, you've always wanted to be a sculptor or a writer. Just do it. Because that is really an expression of yourself as your soul that's guiding you and taking you into the next, it helps take you into the next level of yourself, as far as I'm concerned. It's just listening to that inner desire that you have. Everybody has it, and following through with it on some level, whatever you can.
Yeah, definitely. So I look at it from the perspective of the hands, right? Because that's my specialty.
Right.
And yeah, and yes, passion is definitely part of it, right? Like we do need to we need to be doing something that we enjoy, right? We're not meant to really be in suffering and stress and, I hate my life, I hate my job. If that's you, that means you're probably not living your purpose, right? If you totally despise everything about your life. But there is an imprint and it's embedded in your fingerprints. So your fingerprints actually form on your hands about 5 months before birth. And we come in with these fingerprints and we come in with this imprint. And every single person has different fingerprints. Even identical twins don't have the same fingerprints because it's two souls, right? So these imprints actually can show us our purpose.
That is so fascinating, Cynthia. I did not know that the fingerprints show up 5 months before a child is born. I did not know that. That is, I have never heard that before. And here I'm friends with you and I'm learning something new again. I love it. It's so cool. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It just gets me so excited because, yes, we do have a soul agenda. We do have a soul purpose. And we are guided from even before we're born to fulfill that purpose. But I like to think of that as being up in the jet. You know, I always have dreams about airplanes, and I do have a private pilot certificate as well. And so I think that's why that analogy always comes in for me. But so I think of it as being up in the plane, right? You're at 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, whatever it is. That to me is the overlay of the fingerprints. So we have this big like theme that's part of our life. But we also have our free will, right? And we also have a personality. And really, if we can combine those three things together into that juicy center, that is going to be where purpose, in my opinion, is really where we want to live. So, yeah, we can do just what the soul tells us to do. But, you know, that's good and all. But how it plays out is just like you said, Megan, it can play out in different ways. And we don't need to be unhappy.
No, not at all. I think, you know, I've never thought about it like this before, but listening to what you're saying, it's like our personality, our soul, and just how we show up. It all has to link.
Yep, exactly.
In order to be feeling as though you're fulfilled, because then you're not, it's like you're not showing up in a day and going, oh, did I, or, oh, should I? Oh, no, I'm just being myself. I'm just going to walk right into this. I think that's important, what you're saying. I think it's really important. Like thinking about it as a link.
Yeah. And the personality too, you know, a lot of people think, oh, the personality is not important, or maybe they don't even think about it. Right. But the personality shows up in your hand shape, and your hand shape forms by the time you're about 6 years old. So you absolutely are going to have a personality well developed by that early age in your life. And if you ignore that, and if you know, it's like the parents who say, well, you're going to be a doctor because we say so. And your personality maybe doesn't fit that, right? How many people have gone through that type of thing where it's like, oh, well, everybody in our family is a musician, so therefore we're going to start you playing piano when you're 5. And maybe you don't like piano. Maybe you want to play the drums. You know, maybe there's
story right now. Literally, that was my life at 5. You have to take piano. We all play piano. You have to pick piano. But I didn't like piano. And I wanted to play flute. So I finally got my way, but that's funny.
Yeah, isn't that hilarious?
That was my life. I'm like sitting there going, and piano's beautiful. I loved it. But I'm thinking, oh, come on. I really want to do another instrument. So
yeah. And I think the personality needs to be acknowledged. And you have preferences, and it's okay to have preferences. You know, it's like going to the buffet, you know, in the restaurant. It's like, well, one day you might feel like chicken and another day you might feel like steak. Or maybe you're a vegetarian, and that's okay too. It's all good. You know, you don't need to invalidate your preferences. Right. And I think, you know, that is also true with purpose. So, but what I'm also learning is really interesting. And I've been getting these messages. I can't wait to share with you, Megan. Because we just had the summer solstice.
Right.
Okay. So if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, by the way, if you're watching from Australia, you're like, no, it's winter. You just had your winter solstice. Okay. So it's opposite depending on where you live. But this is where the free will comes in. Okay. So for multiple days in a row. So I like to pull my cards every morning, and this is sort of my little ritual, and it definitely fits with my personality. And I like to see, what is going on. And I actually use my cards to guide me in my purpose and help direct me in my day. So very specific things will sometimes show up. So anyway, I pulled the winter card like 3 days in a row.
Really?
And here it is, like the blazing hot summer here in Arizona. And I'm like, what is up with this message? Like, why is this coming in? And what happened was I was told, by spirit, you need to go back and look at your winter messages. What did you actually intend during the winter solstice?
Oh,
And I'm like, oh, I don't know. That was 6 months ago. I don't even remember what I wrote down, because that's our free will, right? And our free will is in our thumb, by the way. So I went back over the list, and it was so fascinating to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I would say 99% of that list came true,
wow.
but some of those things didn't come true immediately. And so I checked off, I always check off my new moon intentions. I always do them around the new moon and, around significant like events in the year, like the equinox or the solstice. Those are really powerful times of the year to set intentions. And anyway, I was just amazed that almost every single one came true. And but some of them took a long time to come true. Like some of them took almost a full 6 months.
Hmm.
So isn't that interesting?
That is. So it's like you're establishing, you are coding your energy and through your intentions into the universe, and using that power of the sun and the moon, really, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have these influences, right? So we think about, well, we're living on the earth plane and we have these different influences that are out there. And we can use them to our benefit. I mean, that's the whole point, right? We can ignore them if we want to. Again, that's our free will. Or we can use them to enhance our lives and enhance our purpose. So anyway, I thought that was really neat. And I had never really thought about going that far back before. And thank goodness I write it down too. That's another thing I want to mention is if you don't write it down, you're never going to remember what you intended 6 months ago. You have you have to keep track of it.
That day at 11 a.m.
Exactly. It's like a lot of people can't even remember what they had for breakfast yesterday, let alone what they intended 6 months ago. So it's actually kind of hilarious. So yes, my recommendation is write it down. And if you're really curious about your purpose, start to pay attention to what it is that you are intending, right? What are you intending into your life? Mm-hmm. So another question that came up was, what's keeping me from living my purpose?
Yourself.
Yes. So true.
Yourself. Because what we do, depending on how we're raised, depending on where we're raised, really we are conditioned in ways that, by our cultures, by our parents, by religion, by our schools that we go to. And it's really what we've been taught. This is one of the things that I'm writing about in this next book I'm doing. But what we've been taught is how to be accepted and how to live a way in which we're going to be, it's like being approved of, by society. And really, we've really got to stop and ask the question at some juncture of our lives and say, is this necessary? Because the only reason things aren't happening is because I've been told I should behave this way. I've been told I should show up this way. I've been rejected. Now, this one's true. I've been rejected for talking about heaven and the different things in my near-death experience because it doesn't compute in how that individual was taught, who is responding. So I think it's interesting what you just brought up anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think of, I totally agree with you that we are the ones blocking ourselves. Yeah. So the first thing we got to do is we have to take responsibility for our lives. Okay. Because you are the only one responsible for you. Nobody else is responsible for you. And this is a core teaching I always tell people, you are in charge of 4 things. That's it. 4 things. You're in charge of your thoughts. You're in charge of your feelings. You're in charge of your actions. And you're in charge of your responses.
Oh, those are beautiful. I love that because it's so true. I always just stick with the thoughts because no one can take them away from you.
Yeah.
And no one can change them. That you have to allow somebody to do that. But I like how you just added that on. I mean, that's so, it's true. It's so true. Wow.
So if you really are not living your purpose, let's say, for example, you're in a job that you hate and you hate it. Maybe your soul wants you to stay in that job, right? So there could be a reason beyond your free will, right? That is, maybe there's a higher lesson that you're learning, or maybe there are people that are working at that job that you made a soul contract with, right? And you're working with them. So even though sometimes something might be viewed as a negative, it doesn't mean that you're not living your purpose, right? All of us have to go through things that we don't necessarily like. But in the long term, again, it's like, well, your free will can change things. Okay. So, and I've been discovering this more and more, in particular with the feelings, right? Because a lot of times we hold these trapped emotions in our energy field.
I can't believe you're saying this. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And so we have these trapped emotions. Maybe there's an undercurrent of shame, or an undercurrent of low self-worth, or an undercurrent of, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to have a job that I actually love because my family taught me that it's important just to get a paycheck. Maybe that was something that was ingrained in you from an early age. So first of all, you need to uncover what the heck are these emotions that are holding you in your, what my guides call it, the vibratory set point, right? We all have this vibratory set point. And so if you're not seeing what you want in your life, there's going to be something in that vibratory set point that needs to shift. So, and this goes also back to my, winter message, because what I learned that came through for me was that I wasn't holding confidence. And specifically, Mary Magdalene came in and she's like, oh, yeah, you're not embodying ascended confidence. And I'm like, oh, well, that's true. Like, that's a challenge for me. So there was this feeling of lack of confidence, right? So maybe you guys have felt this before. Maybe you could type in the chat if you've ever felt this before. But anyway, so it has taken a period of time, like 6 months here it is, 6 months later. And I am now embodying that ascended confidence. Like it's taken a bit of time. But once you actually embody that and you change that lack to the, I'm going to release that trapped emotion and I'm going to actually embody ascended confidence, what does that look like? Suddenly everything shifts. right? And that's just changing one thing. Imagine if you change like a whole bunch of things. And it was so funny too, because I had a block in my thumb, and I'm not kidding you, it disappeared this week. So it was
Oh,
really exciting.
wow. That's
So,
so, that is so weird. One of the things that I'm thinking of as you're talking is how we learn to adapt. It gets back into adaptation. So that's what you're talking about. Like here's the other part of the map of my brain while you were thinking is there's literally the intention that you set is this is what you are declaring, okay, as we just discussed a moment ago. And in doing so, you're allowing your body to fall into the instruction of, oh, we're going to do this now. It's like you're retraining, right? Because
mhm,
life, we adapt. And the
exactly.
only way to grow is to be aware that there's a shift that needs to happen, and seek out, like, how can I make this shift happen, but that you're open for it indicates that it's going to happen. And anyway, that's what you just made me think of, a whole bunch of other stuff too, but adaptation is really something I think that we're all faced with, and meaning it doesn't exactly align with free will, because
Mhm,
remove the power of making the choice ourselves, and we adapt
mhm.
what is going to be accepted.
Yeah, exactly. And, being open to change is one of the 7 aspects of ascension.
I didn't
So,
know that.
yeah,
That's so cool. It makes sense.
yeah, we have to be willing to change. Otherwise, we're going to stay in stasis, and our vibratory set point is going to be fixed. And in order to grow and evolve and ascend, we have to be open to change. So, yeah, it totally makes sense. So,
And if you're not ready for change, it'll come anyway. Literally will.
that's true. It will. And so you can do things right. You probably heard this. You can do it the easy way or the hard way.
I did it the hard way. I resisted in my life,
Yeah.
really, and then I got shoved into my near-death experience. I mean, there was no way out of change for me. It was, I look at God, the whole experience there in heaven, and go, oh, yeah, he knew he had to get my attention. So let's lay her up for 2 months in the hospital. Let's make sure she becomes paralyzed. Let's make sure she's on an IV every day for 6.5 weeks. Oh, yes, she needs blood transfusions, dialysis, plasmapheresis. Oh, I couldn't walk out of the experience, right? So that is, I mean, I joke now because, haha, it's 19 years later, thank God. But I'm just saying, like, there was no way out of that change because I got shoved into a new reality. And the new reality is always, in my opinion, the new reality is always about the next level of yourself that you are denying yourself of experiencing for whatever the reason, whether it be through fear and how would I make this happen? And no, I'm really happy how I am right now. I have no complaints, and then the universe has something different for you. They're saying, yeah, well, you got to show up differently now. And the only way to learn this is by us pushing you into it. So that's kind of a long share of how we get pushed into, one example of how we get pushed into ourselves and into life differently. So,
Yeah, no, that actually leads to one of the other questions that comes up all the time. And I want to pose this. How do I know the guidance I'm receiving is real? Right. And so, I mean, I've talked to thousands of people over, 20 years that I've been doing this work. And a lot of times they get the messages, right? But they ignore it. Right? How many of us do this? It's like, oh yeah, no, I knew that, but I just kept doing what I was doing. I had my action set already, and I felt like, no, I got to keep doing this. whatever it is. And then what happens is, just like, I mean, for you, Megan, it was extreme. It was a near-death experience, and sometimes the universe will do that to you if you're not paying attention. But if, as far as I see it, though, like, how do you know the guidance is real? Well, it's usually going to be encouraging you to be better, encouraging you to, again, change, think in a more positive way, be more loving to yourself. Usually it's going to be along those lines, like all of the big spiritual themes that, we teach, versus, a fear-based of like, oh, I'm not good enough. Therefore, I'm just going to ignore my intuition, right? So a lot of people discount their intuition, even though they very clearly receive stuff, or they think, oh, that's not real, right? You get that a lot too, right? You probably have had people actually say stuff to that effect, right, Megan? Like, oh, the stuff you do is not real.
Oh, yes. Trust me. But you know what? It's funny because what I believe people don't take into account is that there is something beyond what humanity has constructed as the rule book of a human, we'll say. Okay. And like, this is who we are, the anatomy, here's this is how the brain works. And they still don't even have that 100% by literally according to science. And this is how, the blood is different variations. So like there's A, O positive, things like that. But what is not taken into account, in my opinion, is the fact that we are a higher being. We are love. So when I hear, and previous to my NDE, I never would have believed this, but I know that when I'm hearing guidance, I know who I'm connecting to every single day. I know it because I've been there. Now, previous to my NDE, I would have said, that's a bunch of malarkey. I would not, no. And I would have thought it was crazy, but it's not, because each one of us has a connection to the actual oneness of the energy of the universe. And that oneness is love. That it's just love's energy. And so that's what we need to be open to, in our lives. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, it makes it easier because we can be guided. And you mentioned, instinct. Well, that instinct is your soul. Your soul's already been through it. And that soul is really just the energy. And the energy is going, yeah, we've already done this trick in another life. Or we did this, 25 years ago. All right, got to do it again. Okay, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all very
real. It is. It's very real. And yes, the soul is absolutely real. We are just inhabiting this physical body for a period of time. And when we transition, we go back into that spirit world and our soul continues. Our soul is eternal. So, you really can't screw it up that much. You know what I mean? Like, we think, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And this is another thing that I really want to speak to. We got to lighten up a little bit, We need to have compassion for ourselves and we need to be gentle with ourselves, because there is a timeline that as a human, you think, oh, I should have figured this out by now. But there's the divine timeline, which is eternal. And it's like, okay, just take a breath, have some compassion for yourself. And it takes what it takes. And if it's a life lesson, which also shows up in your hands and your fingerprints, then you came to Earth to actually live that life lesson over and over and over in different ways. And it's like, whoa, I chose this lesson. Why did I do that? And we can beat ourselves up to death over it. But it's like, well, it is because the soul wants a specific growth. Like, we choose a specific growth pattern for the lifetime that we're living.
I so agree with you. And it's interesting because now I firmly believe that we keep choosing the same cycle, okay, throughout our life. It's like there's a theme threaded in everybody's life. This is what you're saying.
Yes.
It keeps happening because we haven't stepped in and declared to ourselves, oh wait, I am love. I deserve X, Y, and Z. This is who I am. Oh, no, you're not allowed to talk to me that way. Whatever it is that you're faced with over and over in your life, it's like, oh, okay, they didn't pass that class yet. All right, well, you flunked the class. You got to go back into the class again. And this is how the universe works. And so you get back into the class and you're like, okay. And then you take the test again because they serve it up to you in another experience with, or situation. And then you still feel the same way. And you're kind of like, well, why does this keep happening? Here's why. Because you didn't experience it as love and respond. It could be you didn't respond differently. You continue to react in such a way where maybe you have an anger issue, or maybe, you withdraw if you find it difficult to be in, maybe it's not confrontation, but I mean, maybe it is, but there's ways of stepping outside of who you are. And so that's what the universe is saying. No. The only way to pass this class is to connect to yourself and figure out why you don't see that love is giving you a gift, to translate this gift into a light bulb moment for yourself of, oh, I am supposed to see this person came into this life for me as I did for them. And we're showing up for each other to correct what we had in a previous life. Oh, wow. Okay. I can think of so many examples in my own personal life. I finally got it. Like last year, really strong. I mean, I'd heard, stuff in heaven, but until it happens to you at such a level, you can't, for me anyway, I couldn't hear the next pitch, because that's what you're talking about also.
Yeah.
The pitch that your soul is connecting to,
Absolutely. Yeah, it is amazing. And yeah, the more we look at our lives as a feedback loop, I think the more we can really be aware of all these things that our soul is trying to teach us, that our soul is wanting for us, that we are, experiencing and we're recognizing. I also like to look at family lineage. What did your parents teach you? What is common within your whole family line that everybody does? That can be super valuable information.
Oh, yes. And you know what I just thought of as you were saying this is that we chose our parents. They were so perfect because they're the only ones who could bring to life the thread and theme that we're supposed to work on in our lives. And that's it. They start the whole ball rolling. They give us exactly what we need. And then you go, okay, what, depending on where you're from. But that's how
it's amazing. Yeah. And that also is true with the people who end up in our lives that are very close to us, good or ill, right? So sometimes we think, why did I attract that, horrible narcissist into my life? Well, that horrible narcissist is also a spark of divine perfection.
Totally.
Right? That's their personality that they're expressing in this lifetime. And yes, we certainly may not like that, but they have a role to play. And sometimes that role is to teach you about yourself, about how to love yourself more, about how to step into a greater version of yourself. And it also can show you what you don't want. So, it's just like going back to the buffet table, right? Sometimes we we pick up a piece of chicken off the table there and it turns out it's dry, maybe it's not the style of chicken that we like or whatever. So sometimes our soul will actually bring people to us like that so that we can experience what we don't want in order for us to have a perspective so that we can then choose something else. Right? So if you never had that dry chicken, how would you know? You wouldn't learn, right? You wouldn't learn that lesson. Like, oh, well, maybe I have a preference in my chicken. Right?
Yeah.
So
You get it's like getting comfortable with the familiarity of someone. And until you figure out what it is that you're familiar with, you won't be able to shift it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are talking about soul purpose today, everyone. If you have a question that you want to type into the chat, feel free to do so. And I want to ask the audience this question. What do you feel your soul has been trying to teach you lately? So I want you just to think about that question and maybe type it into the chat. And we'll talk about what you put up there. So that leads me to the next question also that comes up a lot. And Megan, you mentioned it earlier in the show. And the question is, can your soul purpose change? Okay, so let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Yeah. I believe that the soul, first of all, has one purpose. Okay, there's a main purpose for every soul. And that is when we're born, we are here to protect love at all costs. We are to, as a loving being, because that's what the soul is. It is this energy, ball of energy that is love. Okay. And so when we're born, that's what we're here to be, to keep. So we are maintaining this planet, Earth. Okay. We're maintaining it by agreeing to come in this body and say, oh, yes, I'm going to be love here. I'm going to translate my energy in my life as love. Now, we know that doesn't occur consistently enough. And there are many who do not understand what that is. But okay, so that's our first and foremost, according to me and my one-sided near-death experience. But then beyond that, I look at, like, for myself, having been married, right? That was part of the agreement. There's an agreement that we sign before we're born with God, that we say yes, 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 and yes to all of these agreements, whatever they are, according to karma, that you have to come back and correct. But the free will goes in there. So how you do it is totally up to you. So getting married, for me, that's one of the soul purposes. I am supposed to understand my soul at a deeper level through exchanging the vows as I did in that occurrence, and learning to live as a couple, right? That's what we do in the marriage.
Yeah.
And then the other soul purpose was having my son. He's a soul purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is writing my books.
Mm-hmm.
The other soul purpose is to show up as myself, for my highest self. This is for everybody. Show up as your highest self, because you're serving a soul purpose. It's yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I agree with you. And I wanted to make a comment. Also, we had in the chat, Trina said, I feel like everything starts with gratitude. It allows room for miracles to come into your life. So yeah, definitely when we look at purpose, if we can come from a place of gratitude, yeah, it's going to open up more and more of those blessings exactly to come in. And yes, purpose does change, not from a fingerprint perspective though. Oh. So we have a lens, first of all, that we look through. That's our soul lens, or just the flavor of our life. That's going to remain the same throughout our life. And then our purpose, because our fingerprints don't change, we're going to have this big again, it's that 30,000 foot view of like, that's your purpose. Okay. So for me, my purpose is to live my passions. Okay. Now, purposes are very broad by design because how those passions play out changes over time. And again, that's going to tie in with the stage you are in your life. How old are you? What are you currently working on? How you're developing, and those free will choices. So as we choose things, right? So I chose to study hands, for example. Hand analysis became a passion for me. I could have chosen something else. I could have chosen astrology, or, I could have chosen mediumship, or, any of those kind of intuitive arts. Like I could have chosen a bunch of different things. But when we follow the guidance and the signs, right, that's really, and we tune in, right? We ask divine, we say, what is my purpose? What is really meant for me? What am I meant to co-create? What is my best next step? Just like you mentioned, what is your highest alignment? Yeah, what is that highest potential, highest alignment? And that can change over time. And it's also as we start to heal those emotions, those thoughts, as we respond differently, as we are more grateful, what it's going to do is our purpose is going to expand and evolve with us. And it's going to meet us wherever you're at, right? Because that's the feedback loop. So that's what I love about it too. It's like, oh, wow, look at all these things showing up in my life. Like the movie I just did, Pillars of Power. Would that have shown up had I not been consciously working on my confidence for a long time? Probably not, because I would have just said, no, I'm terrified to be on camera. I'm terrified to be on a big screen. Oh my God, what are people going to say about me? Oh, they're going to judge me. All those little things, right?
Anyway, yeah.
They're going to judge you anyway. Exactly.
That's the thing. I just read something this morning, a comment that I was sharing something on my YouTube channel. And I thought, wow, okay, well, because like this is how I like to believe people show up the best way that they can. Okay. And I show up, I want to be the best version of myself always, but sometimes people just can't hear that, but that's not on me. That's where they're at. Like they're not hearing the next level pitch within themselves, right? To connect the two energies. That's how I'm looking at it. So yeah, people are, where they're at, but it shows up in the judgment. And
absolutely.
In the, well, I think you're, doing this and this. Okay. That's not what I'm saying, but okay. I mean, you're allowed to think whatever you want, but right. Important to also mention that the mindset. So the soul, because we're talking about the soul purpose, the only way that we can really, really get the most effective download of our soul is to allow our human mind to take a rest and take the back seat. Because the entire time we are supposed to be listening to our inner self, and that is our soul. It knows everything. It's so conditioned and programmed with love's energy. It is absolutely perfect.
It's amazing.
Minds have been so conditioned by our upbringings and by our life experiences, and we have adapted to ways of being that are really outside of our natural self. So until we get to the point in our minds where we can go, yeah, that I may not have the answers. Let me allow myself to listen differently, because that is so incredibly important, to listen differently.
Yes, absolutely. So that leads us, by the way, to our topic for next week, which is going to be intuition versus fear.
Oh, wow.
So how are we listening? How do we recognize that? Okay, that's going to be our whole topic for next week.
I'm excited.
And I also want to mention, if you are interested, if you're watching this and you're really interested in learning, what are your hands telling you? What is your life purpose? What is your soul calling for you? And Megan does her beautiful messages from heaven. The two of us actually come together and we do a higher guidance circle. And what that means is that you can join us in a very intimate setting. We limit it to just 10 people. And you can join us in this inner circle for just $97. And this is far lower than what we charge for a regular one-on-one session. And what you can do is you can come in with your questions, you can submit your hands, you can have us actually tune into your guides and find out what is best for you in this moment. What are your next steps? What is your potential? Let's find out what's blocking you. Let's go ahead and dive into that. And we do it together in this beautiful evening. So we do it every other Friday evening, starting at 5:30. And this is Arizona time, by the way. So you can sign up, just scan that QR code. And I'm also going to put it into the chat. Hopefully that, I'm not sure if that's going to show properly, but anyway, hope maybe that's going to work, maybe not, but yeah, so just go to scan that QR code and you can sign up for our next Higher Guidance Circle. And we would love to assist you. Both of us together have combined experience of over 36 years. So that's a long time. And we would love to help you really find the path that is in alignment with you. So until next week, we are going to sign off, and we wish everybody infinite abundance. We wish everybody beautiful soul blessings.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the comments in the chat too. We appreciate that. So
and may peace be upon everyone in every way. That's what I wish.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Okay, thanks everybody.